I recently made the first ever working projector in vanilla Minecraft and it actually plays a movie. However, as fun as watching movies are, playing games is just so much better. I think you know exactly where this is going, so let's just sit back in Minecraft. It feels good to be back here in my creative testing world. I absolutely love pushing vibrant visuals as far as possible, and to think it all started with this working sundial, and now using the stationary shadows at sundown and basically harnessing the sun as our projector, I managed to project a movie onto a screen in vanilla Minecraft. It's not playing just now as you can see, but it's certainly very cool. Which makes me think the next step in Minecraft projector technology is playing a game on the screen. Now, if you've not seen the last video, you should definitely check it out after this one. I mean, even YouTube left a comment on it, which is actually crazy. But you can see that we can only work with white and black. That's all we can do. We can only do 2 colors, so we are quite limited. First things first, let's try and figure out what game are we going to make. But a game that you all suggested, which I really liked, was that sort of dinosaur T-Rex jumping game, which you can play when you lose internet connection on a browser. So if you imagine that's our character, there's going to be things which are coming over this way, and he's going to have to try and jump over them. And yeah, if he gets knocked off, then he has to respawn. It's actually going to be really tricky. Now, another thing you should know about vibrant visuals is the fact that certain blocks don't actually cast a shadow. So you can see that there's a shadow underneath this block. It doesn't happen for glass, it doesn't happen for slime blocks or honey blocks, and chests and shulker boxes actually create a shadow unless you're not looking at them, which is really weird. So these are all things we can definitely use to our advantage. Let's try and get a slime block here, and this is basically where our character is going to be standing the entire time, because we want him to be able to jump, and of course a slime block will allow him to do that. And then we could probably just have our piston feed tape, probably something like this, where we have it sort of like that, and we've got a piston coming down the other side as well. And then if we clear out some grass below, and then temporarily we remove this guy, and then we basically just have a whole lot of glass down the bottom, and then along this way as well, and then same up this way. And you can see this is kind of like our piston feed tape. And I will just very quickly thank you all for getting the channel to 23,000 subscribers. I mean, that is genuinely so crazy. Just thank you all just so much. And thank you as well for our channel members. I mean, that is crazy as well. Supporting me directly means so much. It really does. And what's more is the last video, you all managed to get that on the hype list, which is also just so crazy. Thank you all just so much. So we've now got our piston feed tape, and then all we need now is some kind of block which can be moved by a piston but won't have collision. I'm going to quickly turn this off for now, because if we have our guy on that slime block, we'll sit him there for now. We need him there to jump, but wait, how do we go about doing this? It's staring me right in the face. Why don't we just use a glass pane? And so then whenever there's a glass pane, it doesn't cast a shadow because it's glass. But then, of course, this guy he'd just have to be pushed over ever so slightly. So we get a piston, we place that right there, and then shove him over a little bit. That way he's now on the slime block, so he can jump. Okay, wait, we might have to save this. Okay, we actually need to place a button so we can get this going. But if we place our guy there, and then move him with a piston when there's a gap. Now, whenever we press this button, he should jump. And that is unfortunate. It does get grabbed by the slime block. Maybe this isn't going to work as well as I thought. Why don't, instead of having that in line with the feed tape, we instead have this over by one? And so then that way, he's still going to be touching that. And then we can just have this slime block be right there. And then we shove him over using that. And he's still in line. He's still going to get hit with the glass block. But he'll still be able to jump using the slime block. That is not perfect, though. We want him to jump like this. You know, where he lands straight away. We don't want him to just bounce. So we could try and use a cobweb. And then that would basically just slow him down. So we kind of have the cobweb right there. And then hopefully... Oh, that's weird. Well, we could just use a honey block instead. And so in that way, if we move him... Wait, we could just place... Can we place that there? Would that work? Oh my days. That is perfect. So I've set up this little contraption to basically move him over. And then whenever we want, we can drop him down. And then jump. And then he should... Okay, no. Because glass isn't visible when it casts a shadow, we can just place these blocks here, and then that will keep them entirely in line. And then back up to the top, let's move them over. Oh, and then when we see the chance, let's drop them down, and then jump. Man, I'm so bad at this game. You would think for a game which I'm basically building, I'd be good. Okay, so let's drop him down now, and then jump, and then we drop him down again, and we can jump whenever, and he lands properly. And of course, let me just remind you that the glass is not going to be visible whatsoever. And then he drops down. We've basically got our game. So it's now time to start projecting this game onto the screen. So let's first of all create said screen. So let's try and figure out where things basically are. So we drop this guy down. We should see him. Yeah, we can see the trapdoor. And then I'll turn off the conveyor belt like that. And then you know what? To make the obstacles actually visible, let's replace them with white wool. So that way they'll be visible, yeah, on the screen. And then to make it even easier, let's get some glazed terracotta. And then I'm basically going to line this up. And then that basically tells us where the bottom of the screen is. And so I kind of want this to look like basically like a home cinema. And so then this is our game. So again, when we place the armor stand right there, you can see them kind of on the screen. It's annoying that there's a block there. And of course, we can move all this, but let's figure out how we make an actual jumping mechanism. And I'm thinking for that, we'll just use an observer and some string as well. And we want this to be on as little a delay as possible. So I'm going to place the string right here and then basically have that into an observer. Maybe not that close. We want it maybe slightly further back. Yeah, maybe back to here and then string there. Maybe this is too close together. Maybe we should try and push everything back. Rather than a screen being there, it's now right here. And so you can see the base of the armor stand. You can basically see the entire thing. And so then that way we can be kind of like here looking up at the screen. I think that's a much better way. Yeah, so this is kind of perfect like that. And then whenever we jump, we want it to detect that and then basically tell the machine that the player has jumped. So I'm going to use that with basically just string being watched by an observer, and then we'll even have it running into a block which then gets powered, which is basically going to have this constantly powered like this. Instead of using glass planes to align them, let's just use honey blocks. So that way when he gets pushed, he's into the honey, so he should fall straight down and he will still collide with these blocks. So I've moved the contraption to align him slightly further up. Let's drop him back down and then he slides perfectly. And again, we can see him on the screen. We then jump. And then he's off the screen, which is quite funny. And then he's back down. That is so great. And then if we were to try and kickstart this game, it should start to move. You can see them moving on the screen. Oh, and I've messed it up. Which makes me think we really need a return system. And so when a block comes along, it will then push them off right here. Let's have it go right there. And then he's just basically going to drop all the way down to the bottom. And I imagine we could just use water streams and then ice to make it go even faster. All the way along like this. And then it gets to this point right here. And so we get some glass going up like that. Same with this side right here. And then for where he's entering, we'll just place some signs just to make sure there's no water coming out. We'll place our armor stand. He'll then fall down. It's maybe not the fastest, but he'll get there. He'll slide along. You're not doing much sliding, are you? So after much trial and error, I finally got something which works. So we spawn in our armor stand up here. He then gets pushed and aligned and then shoved all the way along to the water column, which we can then just have him be brought all the way up to here. And then he can be just self-aligned. And then you know what? We'll even place some blocks here and we'll just basically do what we had down there with just another slime block launcher. And so now we make this guy appear right here. We then line him up and drop him down. He should then get all aligned and then sent back up here and pushed right along waiting for the next drop. So here he comes, it goes up and then that is so fast as well. We then basically do this exact same trick again. And then the string as well. We don't want that guy to hold the string. We just want the redstone to power that piston like that. And then from there, we can then branch it off like this into a repeater. And so this is our first proper test. Let's drop that guy in like that. He then gets aligned and dropped down. And he's even posed as well. And then he gets sent all the way back up. And then he should be aligned once more. And then he should get knocked in. That is perfect. So we've got a full respawn system. And then we can play it using this. So here he is. Let's jump. Oh my days. We have a working video game using shadows. Now, we did kind of mess that up there. Yeah, now he's respawning. And we can watch him appear once more. Here he comes. Look at that. That is so cool. So let's jump. Oh my days. I can't believe this. It's now time to start working on making this look good. So let's first of all stop the conveyor belt. Let's get some waxed, again, it doesn't matter what they look like. Let's just get some waxed copper trapdoors. And so now it's really visible what is not meant to be touched and what is. We'll even give this guy a piglin head as well, just so he looks quite funny. He is ready to go. Oh, I didn't mean that. Okay. And you know what we'll do as well? We'll even have a little bit of redstone coming off like this. Whenever we make this guy jump, you can see that it's going to play. Oh no. You know what? That actually sounds like a respawn sound. So we can have it where when he goes past, it's then just detected by the observer. And then up here, we could even do the exact same thing as well. So it plays a sound down there and then it plays a sound up here when he's about to reappear. That is so good. And then it should play that. That is so cool. And so I'm immediately thinking, let's get some spruce wood for the floor, and we get some stripped oak wood along the bottom, and then same with up the sides as well. And then we can offset some deep slate bricks, and we can have a really cool chair basically where the observer is. So now I'm just going to place in a lot of glass, which I can then just place shulker boxes off of, and then we just bring up the wall some more as well. And so now our screen is looking like this, which is just so cool. So we can press this lever, which then basically starts the full thing back up again. We stand in the right place. We can now start playing our game, which is just so cool. It is actually surprisingly tough. You need to try and play it a couple goes just to get used to how it works. But I mean, look at that. It's being projected onto our screen and in our home cinema, and it's actually working. However, it's way too silent. So I think it's time that we get some music in here. But just look at that. I mean, that is so cool. And so I've just copied over my music box from over there. This is from another video which I made where I just wanted to get better with redstone. I can basically put any notes wherever I want, and then it will simply just play it. And so to make this sound slightly more like our game, I'm going to replace these glowstone blocks with emerald blocks. And so with just a couple notes, I've managed to create this very basic sort of just retro sounding game music, which I think turned out really cool. I've also added in this second feed tape as well, which is basically just clouds that go over the top of the screen. It's really, really cool. And then there's even this grass as well, which just adds a little bit more life. And so inside, the game is looking really good. You can see a cloud coming. Let's start playing the game. Take a look at this. This is working so well. And again, it's all possible in vanilla Minecraft. These shadows are crazy. It's a shame that you do have to lock the daylight cycle in order to keep this game running, unless you want to play for 30 seconds before sundown, which is quite funny. But just, this is crazy. I can't believe that this is possible in vanilla Minecraft. So thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it.